This episode of Talk Raytown is brought to you by Cornerstone Home Improvements. For over 50 years, Cornerstone Home Improvements has been Kansas City's trusted name in windows, doors, and siding. Family-owned and woman-led, we combine premium products with expert installation, backed by a lifetime warranty.
Hi, I'm Michelle Bishop. At Cornerstone, we treat your home like our own. No pressure, no shortcuts, just honest service and quality you can count on.
Ready to transform your home? Schedule your free consultation today at cornerstonewindowskc.com. Cornerstone Home Improvements. In your corner, always.
I'm Zac Sweets, and we are back with Talk Raytown, the Chamber of Commerce, Raytown Chamber of Commerce podcast, where you get all of the, not just good news of Raytown, but you learn a little something as well, which I guess is also good news. So here with us this week, we have CAPA, and representing CAPA is Dr. Kristina Jones and Amanda Jackson, the VP of Development. Thanks for joining us. I know that the two of you have listened to every episode.
We're getting caught up.
Okay,
I'm getting
there we
caught
go.
up. I'll speak for myself.
Yeah, there we go. Now, the nervous laughter told me that you're only one episode behind, so it's fine. It's all right. We got a lot of good content, but we're going to add to it today.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of good conversation around the work that you all are doing. But first, let's just start there. Tell me a little bit more about CAPA and the work that you all have been doing. You're going to be hitting a milestone. We'll get to that, but tell us about CAPA.
Well, yes. So CAPA has been around since 1975.
Okay.
And we are positioned in Eastern Jackson County, but we serve all of the Kansas City metro. We are kind of a small but mighty team is how we like to describe ourselves. CAPA has been pretty impactful in the lives of children, families, as our mission is to treat and prevent all forms of child abuse and neglect and to strengthen families and communities. So we were talking a little bit earlier about how our mission is aimed at treating and preventing all forms of child abuse and neglect, but we know as professionals and experts in this field that there are so many types of experiences that are connected to incidents of child abuse and neglect. And many times when things happen, it is because of a variety of other seemingly unrelated things. So CAPA does far greater and has a much bigger reach than just working with folks who've experienced child abuse and neglect. Sometimes we're working with families that have just experienced trauma, and they get to define what that is for themselves.
Yeah, and Amanda, I'm curious what it's like in your experience educating the community and building support for CAPA and around the mission.
So just about my experience in that?
Yeah.
Well, something that's been interesting. So I've been at CAPA for 6 years altogether, but my background and career has always been fundraising and marketing for child welfare organizations. So that's what is near and dear to my heart. And I'll just say the evolution of that has been amazing, because when I first started, it was always about, look at how sad this child is, or how terrible the life of this child is. And that was the way that we were supposed to get people's interests and their money. But it's like, no, let's celebrate who that child is, despite maybe the adversities that they've been through, and recognizing that this is any child. This could be your neighbor. This could be a student in your child's same classroom. So just really being able to first celebrate and honor who the individual is, whether it's a child, client, or an adult, or a whole family. Celebrate who they are, and recognize how resilient and amazing they are coming through that journey, and that recognizing that there are so many people who are struggling and that just need that compassion and that support. And so I love being able to activate community around helping your neighbor, and that's what I get to do in my work.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many pieces, and that's what I enjoy about doing the podcast. Is there's so many pieces of creating community,
Yes.
Yeah.
and the work that you all do is an important piece of that as well. And I'll say, what that change that you described, I've noticed that the language going from victim to talking about survivors and resiliency and really building up the person opposed to the way that it used to be talked about. And I just as a layperson can see that positive change. And so whenever I was trying to get caught up on what CAPA did, I saw that CAPA offers counseling, family support, education, resources. Tell me more about some of those pieces, primarily the family support and the education piece.
Yeah. So most people know us for providing counseling. So we're pretty well known in the community for that. All of our services are at no cost to folks that come to us. So the individual counseling, the family counseling, we have some new groups that are starting, which is really exciting. And then some of the things that we do that people might not know about really include supporting whole families and communities. So that looks like home visiting. So we have services that take place in the homes of families that are either expecting a new baby or have just had a new baby. So that, really intense window of time when you're trying to get ready or the baby is now here and it's stressful because it is, it's exciting, but it's also stressful.
Yeah.
And there are no manuals for when babies come into the world to tell you exactly what to do or what to expect. And so our home visiting services are actually designed to come into the home of that family, provide direct support to them, kind of be like a cheerleader to say to parents, new parents, you're doing a great job. What can we do to support you? What things do you need? Have you thought yet about what kind of parent you want to be? Here's some information that suggests this is effective, in bonding with your baby.
Mm-hmm.
Here's information about what to expect from your children at each developmental milestone. Because sometimes the side that's not as fun to talk about, the child abuse and neglect side, comes from lack of education about what to expect from children.
Okay.
So some parents maybe just genuinely don't know
Sure.
that babies cry.
That's just how that works.
That's just how that works. And that it can be really overwhelming. So imagine what it's like to have this person who's trained to come into your home, be a very calming presence, kind of inform you this is normal. Here are some things that you can do to protect your mental health, to protect your sanity when this is happening, to be a safe parent, to still nurture your baby, even if they just cry and there's nothing you can do to help them not cry, because that's just what babies do sometimes.
Yeah.
So that's an example of kind of the support that we provide to families in the community where they are. So that's in their home, their permanent residence, their temporary residence, in a shelter, if that's where they are. We go to where families are. Other things that we do to provide support are parenting classes. Sometimes there may be an incident related to child abuse or neglect that requires a parent to complete a parenting class, to receive some education about discipline, guidance, communication, all those really important things. We offer parenting classes that are at no cost to families. And they're in person, we have them virtually. So we try to remove as many barriers as possible for folks who might need that, who might require it, but then also maybe are just interested in doing it to learn more or improve their parenting. So we offer those. We also offer trainings to community members called mandated reporter trainings.
Yeah.
So you've probably heard about that if you're talking to someone in a school, because all teachers are mandated reporters.
Right.
Doctors are mandated reporters. So you have all these different professionals in the community that have touch points with kids, and they can see things that are signs or symptoms of abuse or maybe something problematic. Well, we train those professionals to know what to look for, how to engage the family, how to respond if there is a disclosure of something, because if you can imagine, sometimes when a child tells you that something has happened to them. You may be caught off guard. You may not know like the right thing to say, the wrong thing to say. So we do trainings around that too. How to respond, who to call, what that process looks like, all those things. So we really just try to have all angles, like have our arms around the situation from all sides, you know, engage directly with families, other professionals who are on the team of keeping kids safe, like we're all on the same team. And then all the direct services that we provide to children, adults who maybe have been victims of child abuse when they were younger. So we have folks that come and receive services that way. And then the family members, maybe of a child who's been impacted by child abuse and neglect. I do want to say just really quickly that our counseling services are extended to people who maybe they haven't experienced an incident of child abuse or neglect. It could be that they are experiencing a very high degree of stress because of a divorce or an act of community violence or active shooter threats or drills in school that might have, heightened the stress level in children. It could be really whatever is distressing to a child or an individual or a family, and they can seek services from CAPA because we know that when folks are really stressed out or maybe don't have everything that they need to feel safe themselves, it's hard to create a safe environment in the home or in other parts of the community, which then keeps the kids in that environment safe too. So we realize it's a whole system approach.
And that was, so I recently really kind of caught up on something that you all probably know, which is just how important that the younger years of our development, and we're not even talking just babies, right? Which is very important as well, but just that whole adolescent years and the person that we eventually can become. Now that's the brilliance of the human brain. We can always rewire and work our way, but it gets harder the older we get.
Yes.
But just the importance on having that care, not just from one person, but from a community of people, to make sure that as we're growing up, that we're getting that proper support. I think about when you were talking about supporting the families. So my wife and I, when we met, we both had dogs. 'Cause I know dogs are not children. I understand that. I mean, I get
they're
that.
my
would argue with me. Right.
Dogs are my kids.
I have we have a Mastiff that I brought in, and he's very laid back and chill. She has a terrier that is not that same way.
A terror.
Almost. And one thing that was my first kind of like parenting moment was that dog's not going to change. I have to adjust how I react to the dog. And so when I heard you talking about parenting classes, would you recommend parenting classes to any and everybody who thinks that they want to be a parent? Because I know for myself, that was my first time going, I might not know everything I need to know to potentially have children.
Yeah, I would actually. And so I'm the president and CEO of CAPA, right? Well, a few years ago, and I'm a mom, I have an 18-year-old who's graduating from Raytown South High School
All right.
this year, so I'm so excited. But years ago, he was not even a baby or anything. I think he might have been in middle school, but I took a parenting class myself because I thought, oh my God, middle school is awful. Like when kids get to middle school, it is such a hard time.
Yeah.
And I knew that we did parenting classes at CAPA, but because I was working at CAPA then, I've been there for almost 14 years. But I wanted to experience like just services outside of CAPA more than just different perspectives. And there's always so much to learn. You know, when you're a parent, there is no right way to do things. You know, there's no one right way. That's what I mean. There's no one right way to do things. There are so many approaches. And if you have multiple kids, you may have to have multiple approaches because kids just aren't, they're different.
They're different.
And so
One kid lays
yeah.
there and drools, the other kid tears things up.
Yeah, so
I mean, dog.
Yeah.
So I would say yes, that it is. I think that even if you had great parents growing up, or you had wonderful, you have peers maybe that are great parents, there's always something to be learned. There really is. And there should be no shame in seeking that information. Sometimes I think there is a stigma. There's certainly stigma around mental health in our culture, but I think there's also stigma around seeking education around parenting, which I wish there wasn't.
Because you had never parented
It's
before,
like,
right?
No,
Yeah,
no.
your first time.
And now I have 2 kids, and I still, like with the second child, I still feel like, wow, this is so different
Mm-hmm.
than the first time around. I mean, I'm wiser now, so at least I feel a little bit better about that. But she's so different than her brother, and I can't respond to her the same way that I responded to him. So now it's a roll of the dice. I gotta just try something else. But I think parenting classes, parenting books, trainings, webinars, like all the education, all the resources, people should definitely take advantage of everything that's out there. And if there's something that's at no cost, why not?
Yeah.
What's the harm?
Part of me, so, I'm a dog mom, but I am a proud aunt of my 3 nieces. But, I kind of liken it to, I'll go to a professional development webinar, and there will be things like, I know that. Either it'll validate my experience or knowledge, if I already know it, but then there are those little tidbits that I don't know or that inspire me. So I could see this being a similar thing. Maybe there are things that'll just validate your experience as a parent, or make you feel seen, that you already know or you feel strong in, but then there will be those other moments. And it's like that self-care, like taking the time to say, I care about being the best parent I can be. Let me take this moment and be with other parents in a room. And I think that'd be awesome. I like that encouragement.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's been 50 years, as you mentioned, of CAPA doing the work, creating the community, giving the encouragement out. What has that 50 years looked like to get to 2025? How has that growth, the story of CAPA?
Yeah, well, I'm like all in the history because I'm planning our gala, which we can talk about more, but and telling the story of our 50 years throughout this milestone year. So we were actually founded by a group of volunteers from a group called Junior Service League in Independence, and so a women's service organization. But they partnered with, at the time, the Independence Sanitarium Hospital, which is no more. It's now the Innovation Center. Part of the building is now the Independence Innovation Center. And then they partnered with the early start of the Eastern Jackson County mental health. Like there was a group that was coming around mental health. And this was in 1975, which kind of blows my mind a little bit because there is still so much stigma around mental health and mental health supports and services. But even 50 years ago, this group came together recognizing the need of families. And so they came together, they raised some money, and they started a helpline that was volunteer ran to answer calls from individuals in the community. Parents or
in the
maybe
70s.
In the 70s,
oh, wow.
Here in Eastern Jackson County.
I just think about how much effort it took to get another helpline up and going just a few years ago, but that was a decade-long campaign. Sorry.
Yeah. And so, one, just these individuals recognizing the need and having enough passion to come together for it. And then they ran that volunteer line for a couple years. I mean, the first couple years of CAPA's existence, it was this volunteer helpline. They also at that time were visiting new moms in the hospital when they had a baby delivery. They'd go and say, "We're here for you. We're other moms in the community that care for you and your growing family. And if you need something, call us." Right. So those were the early years, and then in the mid '80s is when we really first we got an official staff member at the tail end of the 70s. And then in the mid 80s, we started our counseling program. We were early pioneers in this community in providing counseling services, period, but especially to children, and specialize in child abuse prevention and treatment. And so it's just evolved. Yeah, we just every decade we kind of added the next layer of programming, and but yeah, every program that we currently offer has been around for 30 or more years at least.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And we've really just strengthened over the years.
Yeah.
So I mentioned a little while ago that this will be my 14th year at CAPA. In August, it'll be 14 years. And I've worked in several program areas of the organization. And it has been so wonderful to see the growth and just the evolution, but just the care and the attention to best practice, really honoring the science and research and what's ethical around the work that we do to just strengthen it and make it, better and better and better. And so that's the part that I have enjoyed the most, just watching, being a part of the CAPA community. It's just watching every person who's been employed during that time care so much about the work they do that they just want to do it the very best they can. And we've seen CAPA services just improve and blossom. And now we're the largest staff we've ever been. So we have a staff of 27 full-time staff. But I remember the days when we were teeny tiny. We just had a few, maybe like 12, 13 people.
Yeah.
Wow.
But still doing really amazing work, serving lots of people. But, we feel big now. I mean, 27 is really not big, but we feel big now.
Big impact.
Yes,
Big
the impact is really just something to be proud of.
Yeah. What is, I guess, something that would be kind of unknown or surprising that you all see just almost day to day in your all's work as you're out doing providing that impact?
Surprising. So I'd say that's a good interview question.
Thank you.
Surprising. I'm going to let that roll through my brain. There is one thing I want to share that I think other people would find surprising about our work. It's that in addition to all the services we provide in the community, like towards our mission, CAPA, we like to affectionately call ourselves, our staff, like to call ourselves a teaching hospital. Or we liken ourselves to a teaching hospital because for the last 20 plus years, we've always hosted clinical interns. So whenever folks who are going into the mental health field are in graduate programs to become master's level social workers, counselors, to go on to become licensed therapists, graduate programs require master students to do an internship. And that's where the rubber meets the road, where future clinicians get to actually take everything they're learning in the classroom and implement it with real clients.
Almost no bumpers. You're in it,
and it's a scary time. I've been there. I'm a trained and licensed therapist, so I remember my internship days. But CAPA hosts interns, clinical interns from all of the local universities that have master's programs, either in social work, counseling, or marriage and family therapy. We've expanded our list of partnering universities and colleges to include online programs and things like that. So we have every year about 30 clinical interns that are serving and learning at CAPA. So usually people are surprised to learn that we are not only having this impact directly on clients, but we're having a huge impact on the mental health sector in this region, because most places you go, like nonprofit mental health organizations or hospitals and things like that, you're going to run into somebody who said, I did my internship at CAPA.
That's fantastic.
Because of the number of interns that have spent their time learning, or, number of therapists that have spent their learning time at CAPA getting real life experience, high quality supervision, training, and education while they're really practicing and honing their skills. So a lot of people are typically surprised to hear that, but it's something I'm really proud of. I'm very excited that we get to be such a big part of producing a large number of professionals that go out into the field and then impact more people wherever they work.
Where the need, we probably don't really have an idea of the whole need. We just know we need more.
Yes, we do. And we do need more. We do. We still are kind of functioning in this sector in a deficit, really.
Yeah.
And I know that we have different months for awareness so that folks can get a little bit of education. And I understand that April is National Child Abuse Prevention Month.
Yes.
What does CAPA do in the month of April or leading into the month of April, even outside of the month of April? What do we do with this awareness month so that folks can maybe learn a little bit more or, maybe even find ways to help themselves?
Yeah.
Well, I will definitely speak to just the amazing effort that our community education team does year round, but I know that they have essentially been at a community event every day this month, really making sure we are interfacing with across all of the metro different partners, whether it's schools or churches or other service agencies or neighborhood associations. So they are doing that year round, but I know that they've been so busy this month, and they have such great friendly faces, and they're giving out fun things for the kids, but they're also informing anyone who sees them that, hey, we exist as a resource, and come to us. Don't be afraid to come to us for to help a neighbor of yours or to help yourself. So I really love that their commitment that they are doing all the time. We do some fun like fundraising and things, but something it's not easy to talk about child abuse, but I will share a few statistics because it is a reality, and it's something that we can come around as a community. So in Jackson County, in the most recent year of reporting, there were over 7,000 calls into the child abuse hotline. And those calls involved over 10,000 children. So that was in our Jackson County, this area. And that accounts for 12% of the whole state's hotline calls. So Jackson County is a high need area.
Yeah.
And those calls, it's not always, it can be a suspected, it's
Sure.
someone that's maybe concerned. We feel like maybe something's happening.
There's over 100 counties in the state of Missouri, so
Right.
that is 12% is significant.
It's significant, and it's so I do want to. So I know that people listening and in on this conversation, they know someone that maybe is struggling, whether they know that they're having that exact experience. It's happening. So yeah, we really do utilize this month specifically to talk a little bit more about some of those statistics to the general public, just so that they know, hey, this is a reality. It's hard to talk about, but guess what? There's solutions. I mean, we can come around this. So,
And I have to really, she gave kudos to our community education team, and they do deserve them. But I have to give kudos to Amanda and her team, because she does a lot to prepare for the month of April, and then during the month of April to really put CAPA on people's radar during the month of April. We're, like I said, 27 full-time staff. We feel huge now, but we're still really a small team, and there are still places that we go where people say, "Oh, I've never heard of CAPA," and we're trying to, make that happen less and less. However, in the month of April, Amanda's team shares so much helpful information through our social media. And then she's had us booked back to back, talking to people, filming, recording, putting our message out during the month of April. And she specializes in this, making sure that as many people hear about what they can do to be part of the solution, that happens. And I just appreciate her, because she is really the guru of that. I mean,
she's why we're here today.
Yeah, I know it, right? I mean, we were somewhere else right before this. So, I mean, Amanda literally has us everywhere. And that doesn't go unnoticed, because she puts a lot of work, a lot of effort into, our social media posts will share tidbits of information for families and communities on did you know that you could do this, or did you know you could implement this with your family to increase, attachment or bonding? Just lots of incredible information that she ramps up and shares during the month of April to increase awareness. And so I didn't want to let her off the hook by kind of not playing up all the hard work that she puts into increasing awareness for us during the month of April.
Well, we will absolutely have CAPA's social media and information attached to everything where we post this episode. But Amanda, if you will, since this is Awareness Month, what is that number if folks don't already know, or where they could call in something that they might suspect or that they might know that?
Oh gosh,
I
don't know the
Oh,
hotline
no.
off the top of my
All
head.
right, we'll cut and edit this.
And what I will share, what we really like to share is 211.
Yes.
So this is not the hotline. But it's United Way nationally. I actually think they have it's an international presence that I think I learned about. Anyway, 211, you can dial it or they have the website. But so often, and this is a whole other education, sometimes it's not the hotline call that you need to make. It's hey, we're seeing maybe the kids aren't seasonally appropriately dressed, or, what you might see some things. And so maybe it's actually coming around that need. And instead of going immediately to the hotline, it's like, hey, maybe this family needs some help getting clothing, they have maybe they're food insecure and they need some support with connection to a pantry, whatever.
Yeah.
So that 211 is a great number for individuals who need some support, but also if they recognize a neighbor who needs support.
Yeah.
We really like to promote that.
Yeah, we do.
So I know that one.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah, 211 is helpful because someone's answering and you can describe the issue and they will identify some of the best resources that will likely be able to address the issue. And it'll usually be multiple resources. So, yeah.
Oh, that's perfect. Well, you mentioned earlier the impact that CAPA has with the community. And one of those things I understand is a partnership with Raytown Quality Schools. Not that you're just partial because you have a kid graduating, but that supports a lot of students. So tell us more about that as we sit in the illustrious Raytown Quality School District recording studio.
Yeah, so CAPA has for many years partnered with all of the area school districts to ensure that we could serve children to the best of our ability. So there are times when families call to get their children enrolled in counseling, and maybe there's a barrier of transportation that a family has where they're not able to get their child to our offices. Or perhaps it's like work schedule, or it's something that really prohibits them from being able to get to us. So we have always offered the option, or at least for as long as I know, have offered the option as long as a child's school, we have a relationship with them and they will allow us to come, we will go into the child's school and provide counseling there in an effort to reduce barriers for the family. And we've been actually a longtime partner of Raytown Quality Schools, like an official partner with an MOU and everything, to provide all of CAPA's full menu of services whenever needed. But we just recently, this year, piloted a new initiative with Raytown Quality Schools with elementary school children, and hopefully when we are able to demonstrate success, because we will be able to expand to maybe middle school or high school, whatever the district says the needs are. But we now have one of CAPA's staff therapists housed in an elementary school.
Oh, that's great.
Within the Raytown School District, Quality School District. So she has an office. She has it outfitted for play therapy. All of CAPA's staff therapists are trained to use play therapy and a variety of therapeutic modalities. But, being in a school, it is really important to have that type of expertise. So play, and the therapist that we have placed there is phenomenal. Her name is Rose. She is just the kindest, child-loving person you'd ever want to meet.
I can already hear a child, Miss Rose.
Oh my gosh, she is just really amazing. But we're excited about this partnership because we think that her presence in the school is going to even further reduce barriers to children receiving the type of intervention that they might need in the moment. We still have our processes where we must contact the parents and get consent, and we do all of those things. But it's much easier when a child sees the person, and maybe even in passing, they wave to them and create some kind of relationship. And it also increases the interest for children who may be in need if they see the person right there. And maybe they have a friend who might be going to visit that person, and they're like, okay, so they're not scary. It's not scary to go in there. So we're just really excited because while we have been partners with Raytown Quality Schools for many years, we were able to have some meetings with the district leadership to hear about the need at the elementary level. And it is really high, especially post-COVID. So we have a lot of children that are just dealing with higher levels of anxiety, higher levels of stress, difficulty regulating their emotions. And then that, naturally comes out in their interpersonal connections with their peers, or their ability to focus and learn or listen to their teachers.
And what I'm hearing are just multipliers, right?
Exactly.
Especially if there's no contact point, or so my very limited understanding of counseling therapy often is like, how can the therapist help the client, the person, figure out coping skills, because life is going to have whatever it's going to bring. And I heard we were talking about education as like an investment sort of things. We put a lot of investment in education in high school, and that's not important. That is important, but we almost miss a piece of the equation by not focusing on the littles, on the elementary side. And especially when we're talking about what we're talking about now, if they don't get some of that access to learning what coping skills, whenever there is that anxiety at that young age, by the time they're in high school, and like we said earlier, the older you get, the harder it is to kind of restructure some of that wiring. So that early exposure to learning some of those skills is important.
One thing I'll say too about just CAPA in general, our counseling services, is that there is no maximum number of sessions that a client has. So at CAPA, we feel very fortunate that we're able to see people for as long as they need to be seen. And it feels great to extend that same service availability to kids in schools. Do you know? They can be seen as long as they need to be seen. And yes, we know we've got a system worked out for summer and what happens there and keeping them enrolled and the touch points, and making it a smooth transition. But we are just so excited. We're already hearing so many wonderful things and getting great feedback. So we just started this partnership in January.
Okay.
And I know that at some meetings, there will be lots more information hopefully shared district-wide about the success. And my goal is to take all that success and turn it into compelling arguments for our ability to expand and serve even more, maybe more elementary schools, or move it to middle school. So we're just really happy because Raytown is our community, and we want to continue to serve and invest where we are. These are our kids. And so we just, we're excited.
No, and you should be excited about it. And Amanda, what are you kind of seeing from your vantage point with that work and the possibilities?
Yeah. Well, so we are presenting at an upcoming chamber luncheon, and Rose is actually going to be the presenter. And so I just want to share a really sweet story, kind of little glimpse into the impact because she's only been there since January.
Yeah.
So it's just a few months now. I mean, it's almost end of April, but she had a fourth grader who the first time they came into her space, almost immediately said, toys aren't my thing, because of course, as a play therapist, you have all kinds of fun things. So this fourth grader was, toys aren't my thing. And then time went on, and this child was with the school counselor. So what's great is Rose is connected with the whole system of that school. So the child was with the school counselor, and the kiddo asked to go to Rose's office because they have now felt like this is the safe space. And then when they went into Rose's office, I guess they were just giving the counselor the tour of all the toys that they love. So I just love that that's really, like, that just paints the picture in a really relatable way of, like, these are kids. They are just kids. They're dealing with some big things. But someone like Rose can be in that school setting and help them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's not necessarily answering your question, but I just,
No,
it is my excitement around this
Yeah.
initiative for sure.
It probably seems like such a small thing to us adults who we don't toys on our things.
Right.
But well, we just have like gadgets. We have different.
Yeah.
They're toys. Some of them drive and you need a license for them.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
no, but it seems like a small thing, but that's probably such a huge development for that child to go from whatever is happening in their life where toys aren't their thing to now they're showing another trusted individual that's not just Miss Rose. Hey,
Yeah.
these are the toys I enjoy
Yeah.
in this space. I bet there was probably her heart just grew even bigger Miss
Oh,
Rose
yeah.
in that moment.
Yes.
Yeah, we love to hear about moments where what's happening is representative of the self-protection wall
Mhm.
coming down
Yeah.
because they feel safe enough to let it down.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
I mean, that fourth grader, I feel, probably has had to deal with some big things, some things beyond their years probably. And so, yeah, they're able to be a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that.
And that's what anybody would hope for.
Mhm.
Go be children. I remember telling my nephew who's now in high school, whenever he was like 12, I was like, enjoy this childhood thing. And he looked at me confused, and he should have been confused.
Yeah.
But it goes by quick. Speaking of which, our time has gone by
Yes.
quick, and I feel like we could keep talking about the work that you all do for at least another 2 hours. But one thing that I wanted to ask that we asked before we got going is what piece of education, maybe it's an activating education piece, would you communicate to the layperson that doesn't work in the spaces that you all work on how they can be a positive person in a child's life or at large just in the community?
Yeah, and I'll try to answer it the way I did earlier because you said I did a
It
good
was
job. And now I'm
fantastic.
like, I don't know if I can repeat that the same way. But really, urging everyone to see themselves as part of the solution to keeping all kids safe. When I said a couple minutes ago that this is our community and these are our kids, that is truly just a belief that just lives in me. Yeah, it's running through my veins every day. I see a child, I do not know them, but they are my kid. And I think that if we all, it doesn't take a master's degree in counseling. It does not take years of experience in prevention work to be part of the solution or part of the network and the community that's dedicated to keeping kids safe. It's all of our responsibility. It's all of our job. And so my biggest piece of education and encouragement and urge and plea to people is to see yourselves as part of that solution, because really, if we're all in agreement and we're all holding hands around that, we would maybe not have to exist, and we want to not have to exist. Actually, we want to prevent the things that make communities unsafe for kids. We want really just everyone to see themselves as part of that process and that solution. And all it takes is caring and empathy, paying attention to our neighbors and to, listening to what kids say, because, a lot of times they tell us stuff and, we might miss it if we're not really, really paying attention. But yeah, I just think that that's what it takes. It really doesn't take, all of the degrees, and it doesn't take, there's a need for us, when the time comes. But I think that if we all really lock in and commit to creating safety for all kids, wherever we are, then we'll have less and less to prevent, or less and less to treat, and because we'll be preventing. So, yeah, that would be my urge.
No, I think that's great because I think for most of us who can probably think of at least, I hope, at least one person, one adult or child that made us feel seen in a moment that has stuck with us for our years to come.
Yeah.
So, and I know in my instance that what I'm thinking of is that person literally just listened to me.
Yeah.
And it was something small. And so one thing I hope folks listen to us about is your all's fundraiser coming up on June 13th.
Yeah.
I have not heard of a fundraiser so fun.
Okay, I love it.
A fundraiser, but it is the Play Like a Kid Day.
Yes.
Or Play Like a Kid.
Play like a kid.
Tell me more about that.
So it's an adult field day. So you don't have to be athletic.
No.
Bring on your competitive spirit, okay? But you don't have to be athletic. We do egg races or relays, and we bring in some water games too because it might be a little hot, so you gotta have a little water. But yeah, it's teams of 5, and we have a lot of local businesses and organizations already participate. We're in our 4th year of this event. So yeah, we have over 30 businesses and organizations already who engage, but we have room to double that. So we're out at Lake Jacomo at the Frank soccer fields, and yeah, it's just we started this event because it's in the spirit of being a kid, right? So take the time off to just be like your inner child and connect with community. It is good networking. It just happens to be like the best fun networking. Right? So yeah.
You can
So
make a team of your friends or your coworkers.
Yeah.
And just come out.
Exactly. And team registrations start at $350. And then we do still have some sponsorships. But yeah,
Perfect.
We'll put all the details. I know Jeff and team will put all the details out there to link up with us.
The post-production is just a chef's kiss. But before we get to that part, it is April.
Yeah.
Field days are probably on the minds of children throughout the country. What was your field day activity whenever you were getting to the end of spring, looking for the end of school?
Well, I have to say, because I have never been athletic. Never, ever. And I was always terrified of the kickball games, like scared to death of that. But I loved the egg race. Mm-hmm. So like with the spoon, and you put the egg on and you try to just, I loved that because that's like strategy. That's me. Now, I'm not athletic. I cannot kick the ball way out there, but I can try to strategize. That was my favorite. And we did that and Play Like a Kid. It was so fun.
Yeah. So yeah. Mine, maybe some people will know of this, but it was shoe shot put. So you literally would just loosen the laces on your shoe and then you kick it as far as you can. So silly, but I actually had us introduce that at Play Like a Kid last year, and grown-ups were like, some of them remembered that experience, and some were like, that is hilarious, I love it. So yeah.
I'm sure some of them just did it on accident growing up as a kid. Yeah, it wasn't part of the competition. Yeah. But no, I love the obstacle courses. And I would just be I'd lay out at the end of it. I do remember that. So, well, Dr. Jones, Amanda, thank you for being here with Talk Raytown, telling us more about CAPA. I'm sure this is not going to be the last time we hear something excited about CAPA. Congratulations on the 50th year of service. And thank you for all the work that you do in helping to create and support community here in Raytown.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, that is our episode. They told me, they held up the sign and said that I'll be back next time. So I'll see you next time for Talk Raytown. And again, check out the episodes you haven't listened to if you haven't, and like and subscribe.